I'm sure everyone in this chamber will join me in expressing solidarity with Scotland's Muslim community after the brutal and unprovoked attacks on the streets of Edinburgh last weekend. That community's response to those attacks has not been one of violence or revenge. It has been a plea for tolerance and for understanding. And in a society where that feels increasingly rare, we would all do well to listen to them. Presiding officer, new figures show that violent crime is up by 4,000 incidents last year. Crimes of dishonesty were up by 7,000. Of course, one of those has dominated the front pages this week. But while everyone is focused on Scotland's prison population growing by 1 in recent days, I want to ask about those leaving our jails. All told, over 1,400 inmates have been let out since the early release scheme began, because our prisons are bursting at the seams. But this isn't a strategy, nor will it protect the public. So can I ask the First Minister, how many of those who were released early went on to re-offend, and how many of them are already back behind bars?
First Minister.
First of all, can I associate myself unreservedly with the comments that Mr Cole-Hamilton made about the feelings in the Muslim community? On Monday, I visited the Broomhouse Mosque along with Samita Kumar and the Andale Street Mosque in Edinburgh with Ben McPherson. And of course the Broomhouse Mosque is twinned with the Blackhall Mosque, which I think is probably in Mr Cole-Hamilton's constituency. If not, it is very close by. The feeling of unease is palpable in the community, and as I indicated in my answers on Tuesday, I met young men who were the victims of the attacks last Friday, and my heart goes out to them for the trauma and the physical injury that they have suffered. And I reiterate my absolute wholehearted commitment to give the leadership in Scotland to ensure that we live in a tolerant and inclusive country at all times. In relation to the prison population, as Parliament is aware, because the Government has been very transparent with Parliament over the course of the last 2.5 years, the prison population has been rising significantly. The Government has taken forward, with parliamentary consent, measures which have resulted in the early release of certain prisoners, although there are significant exemptions in place. And the Justice Secretary will lead a debate on the prison population and our strategy in response to the sentencing the Penal Commission's report that we received before the election later on this afternoon. I don't have the details about reoffending in front of me, but I'm happy to write to Mr Cole-Hamilton on that point.
Alex Cole-Hamilton.
I'm grateful for that reply. We can be sure it isn't zero, and for as long as we don't have a proper strategy around prison capacity, around rehabilitation and around clearing down the court's backlog, and then early release will be in a revolving door with people going in and out and back into our prisons. Our justice system, presiding officer, is in crisis. So we need that strategy, and Lib Dems will of course play our part in that. But we also need to use the tools that we have right now. Presiding officer, sexual crime is the highest it's been since 1971. Rape crisis describes that as shameful and sharp. And many of those assaults will have been committed by a partner. Yet the domestic abuse protections that this Parliament agreed to 5 years ago are still not in place. So can I ask the First Minister, when will his government stop dragging its feet, act on the will of this Parliament and restore the public's faith in our broken justice system?
First Minister.
I'm advised that the figures on return to custody, which is not quite the same point that Mr Cole-Hamilton is putting to me, is in the first tranche of the prisoner release scheme 13% and in the second tranche 5%. But I will furnish him with more details on this question. I share his concern about the reporting and the pursuit of sexual crime because no women should be subjected to sexual crimes and to domestic violence, and the Government has in place, and we've passed legislation to address these issues. There has, of course, been a very significant increase in reporting of sexual crime and domestic violence, and very substantial increases in prosecution. That's why the prison population, that is one of the factors why the prison population is so high. So, although not all of the measures that were being passed by Parliament have been commenced, I don't think it's a fair characterisation to say the government has been dragging its heels. But I assure Mr Cole-Hamilton that the government is entirely focused on making sure that women and girls are protected in our society, and that we have, as the recently retired Lord Advocate demonstrated, a very, very front-footed approach to ensuring the pursuit of sexual crime, and that will always be the case in this government.